The WNBA playoffs hit an unexpected rough patch this season as television ratings took a noticeable dive, and fingers were pointed in every direction. Some saw the absence of Caitlin Clark, a college basketball superstar, as a major reason for the decline. Meanwhile, others felt that the league's players, many of whom are openly vocal about social justice issues, were facing backlash from fans who found their activism a bit too much to handle. It's like someone hit the mute button on the excitement just when things were supposed to heat up. Without Clark, a fresh and electrifying player, some viewers simply tuned out. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. For those unfamiliar, Caitlin Clark has been a phenomenon at the college level, putting up performances that have left jaws on the floor and creating a buzz that transcends the sport itself. Her absence in the playoffs this year almost feels like a glaring hole that's hard to ignore. Fans who had been swept up in her gravitational pull at the collegiate level were left craving that same energy in the WNBA playoffs. Clark isn't in the league yet, but it sure seems like people already expect her presence to bring back some spark. It's almost like waiting for a movie's sequel to drop, and in the meantime, everything else just seems lackluster. Then there's the elephant in the room: the backlash towards some players for their outspoken stances on issues, such as racial injustice. The WNBA has never shied away from activism, and many players have been at the forefront of social movements. However, some corners of the audience, particularly those who prefer sports to be free of politics, seemed less enthusiastic about tuning in. The criticisms often play out in predictable ways, with detractors crying that the league has become too woke, while supporters argue that it's important to use such platforms for greater societal good. It's a debate that's as polarizing as pineapple on pizza. Either way, the numbers suggest some viewers may have decided to watch something else. With TV ratings sinking, the internet was quick to add fuel to the fire. On one side, people were expressing disappointment over the lack of Clark, while others pointed to the seemingly endless discussion of social issues during broadcasts. It's a delicate balance, trying to satisfy hardcore basketball enthusiasts while also addressing important topics. The result this time? A mix that left no one entirely happy. The irony is that the very athletes being criticized for their activism are the same ones who dedicated their lives to this sport. Yet, some spectators are more focused on what happens off the court. It's a lose-lose scenario when basketball takes a backseat to everything else. The WNBA itself is in a tricky spot. Without the star power of Caitlin Clark, who seems destined for superstardom, the league has to rely on the current roster of stars to keep viewers hooked. But when you have a large chunk of the audience turning off their screens because of players' outspoken views, it's a challenge to win everyone back. The league has tried to stay focused on the game while supporting its players' rights to speak out. But it's clear that not all fans are on board. Some sports leagues manage to dodge the political minefield, but the WNBA appears to be right in the middle of it. Whether that's a good or bad thing depends on who you ask. At the same time, it's hard to ignore the racial undertones of some of the criticisms. When players voice concerns about racism, there's a segment of the fan base that seems to take it personally, as if acknowledging inequality in society somehow diminishes their enjoyment of the sport. It's an odd thing to witness: people tuning in for basketball, only to get upset when the players they idolize have opinions outside the game. The anger some people feel is almost disproportionate, as if these athletes are no longer allowed to be more than just entertainers. You have to wonder if some fans are simply looking for a reason to justify their waning interest in the league. With Clark not playing, it's easier to blame other factors like wokeness for the drop in ratings, even though the truth might be more complex. While Clark's eventual arrival in the WNBA will almost certainly give the league a shot in the arm, it's not guaranteed that her presence will erase the divide between players and parts of their audience. If anything, her entry could highlight just how much the league needs fresh faces to reinvigorate the fan base and shift the conversation back to basketball. Looking at the larger picture, this whole scenario serves as a reminder that sports are never just about what happens on the court. The WNBA, more than any other league, feels the weight of social issues hanging over it. It's both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, the players have a platform to inspire change and bring attention to important causes. On the other, they risk alienating a portion of their audience who might prefer their entertainment without the side of activism. The players don't seem inclined to stop speaking out anytime soon. They know their influence stretches beyond the game, and they're not afraid to use it. Some of the most vocal players have been consistent in their activism, but that hasn't stopped the critics. It's a strange position for the league to be in, where the stars are celebrated for their talent but criticized for their opinions. The drop in playoff ratings is just the latest episode in this ongoing saga, and it's clear there's no easy solution. It's not as simple as telling players to stick to sports, especially when the WNBA has embraced its role in the cultural conversation. In many ways, it feels like the league is trying to steer a ship that's constantly being pulled in different directions by its players, its fans, and the broader social climate. The narrative around the ratings drop has been dominated by discussions of what's wrong with the league, but that ignores the fact that the WNBA is still growing. The audience may not be as large as the NBA's, but it's dedicated, and the league's efforts to support its players in all facets of their lives, on and off the court, is something to be admired. However, it's clear that finding a balance between basketball and activism is a tricky tightrope walk. Right now, with the absence of Caitlin Clark as a convenient scapegoat, that balance feels even more off-kilter than usual. And while Caitlin Clark's absence may have been the headline grabber for why ratings took a hit, it's hard to deny that there's a deeper story at play. The WNBA has always had to fight for attention, and now it's facing a new kind of challenge: how to keep fans engaged when the conversation around the game becomes about much more than the game itself. It's almost like the league is walking a fine line between being a basketball organization and a movement. Both are important, but keeping the two in harmony is proving to be a tougher task than expected. As the WNBA grapples with these ongoing challenges, it's important to recognize that no single player, not even Caitlin Clark, can be the league's savior. Her future presence will bring a surge of interest, sure, but the issues surrounding the league are multifaceted and extend beyond the talent on the court. Clark will undoubtedly boost ratings and draw in a larger audience, but expecting her to single-handedly resolve the deeper conflicts between fans and the league's activism is unrealistic. The WNBA will have to continue finding ways to engage its audience while also staying true to its values, a balancing act that becomes more complicated each season. The drop in playoff ratings this year has been a wake-up call for the league. It's not just about who's playing or not playing, but about how the game is being presented and the context in which it exists. The WNBA's future success depends on its ability to maintain its unique identity as a league that champions social justice, while also attracting and keeping a dedicated fan base. There's no clear-cut solution, and any attempt to address the situation will need to be nuanced. Simply focusing on basketball without acknowledging the broader societal issues would feel inauthentic to the league's history and to the players themselves. The WNBA playoffs have faced a tough year in terms of viewership, and much of it seems tied to factors beyond the players' control. Caitlin Clark will eventually enter the league, and her star power will no doubt draw in more eyes, but the question remains whether that will be enough to overcome the broader challenges the league faces. There's an undeniable tension between the players' activism and some fans' desire to just watch basketball. It's a challenge that's not going away anytime soon, and the league's success may depend on how well it can navigate these choppy waters in the coming years. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.